Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC Vegas 68. We have ourselves the road to the UFC finals. You could call it UFC Asia, UFC Korea, because it is a card that features mostly Asian fighters. And you know what? It is actually a very, very entertaining one. Despite the lack of name value, we do have ourselves some bangers, some fights that should be very entertaining, and we get to see a new wave of prospects come through the UFC. And more importantly, we have fights this weekend. You know, we had no fights last week, a nice week off, but been too long. I want to get right back into it. And we do so with an early breakdown. I'm going to start off the week. I've had time to do my research. I'm ready to put this video out here and ready to make some money with you guys. Now, before we get started, two things I want to say. First of all, hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. And second of all, if I mispronounce these names, I am sorry. That's about it. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, you have the 12-0 Tatsuro Taira versus the 8-1 debutant Jesus Aguilar. This is a fight where every time we talk about the first fight of the night, I like to say it's either a fight where they're trying to showcase violence or showcase a specific fighter, and this one's definitely showcase a specific fighter. So Taira is a huge prospect right now for the UFC and a very, very large favorite. You can see that through not only his 9.6K price tag on DraftKings, but minus 1,200 on the money line. This guy is highly touted and for very good reason. He's a very, very talented grappler, very talented young prospect. And he's getting a guy, Jesus Aguilar, who's got a really tall task ahead of him. Aguilar himself is a guillotine specialist, let's say that, and that probably won't bode well against someone like Taira, who has great sweeps from the bottom, very good defensively in his grappling realm, and Aguilar's probably just going to be a step behind in the grappling. The one loss that Aguilar has was a submission loss, and I do think Taira is able to roll through this guy just like everybody else. The question becomes, do you think he's able to live up to his 9.6K salary on DraftKings? Because it is $300 more expensive than everybody else on the slate, and he is a guy with, although he has a lot of potential, it is a tough salary to get to here this card. To me, I think it's warranted. I think it's worth it because he was able to score 96 in his first decision win, and I do think that he has the takedown and grappling upside to even get a finish here. I don't mind Taira inside the distance either. It's Taira season here, and I'm not going to have any hot takes on this one. I'm going to call it a dominant first-round submission, one to get him back on track and showcase him on this UFC road to the UFC card. Next up at 185, we have Jeongyeong Park versus Dennis Tiuliulin. Yeah, that's right. Jeongyeong Park, the Iron Turtle. Man, I love this guy's fight name. Of course, the Iron Turtle, he doesn't get much better than that, but this guy's a talented fighter. His own right's been around for a while. Had 7 fights in the UFC, won 5 of them, which is a good look here, especially some decent level of competition. He has lost a couple of them, but both of them by finish at decent prospects. Fluffy Hernandez, Gregory Rodriguez, guys you can't really fault him for. He's facing someone in Tiuliulin who is a guy who, coming off a second-round knockout win, who scored very well in doing so, but this man is just all front-loaded, all power. Doesn't have the best volume, doesn't have the best technical ability, but he throws with fight-ending intention. Of course, Dennis is live to finish early here, but to me, it's going to be Park taking over later, especially with his grappling and his volume-based approach. And I think this is a fight that he's able to get Dennis out of here. I do like Jeongyeong Park in this matchup. He is going to be my predicted winner, and I do think he has decent sneaky upside on DraftKings. At $8,500, I mean, he has takedown upside. We saw what he's able to do against a guy in John Phillips who doesn't have the best ground game. And although I don't exactly expect him to replicate that same beatdown, I do think that he's able to do something similar here with his takedowns, with his durability, with his cardio advantage, and just his ability to wear him out of there. And although I do like this fight as a whole as a DraftKings play, whereas Jeongyeong Park is my sneaky play and Dennis is a great GPP play due to first-round upside, I like the under. I like this fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at plus money, and I don't think that line is really accurate in my opinion because Dennis throws with power, then fades late. He's only ever been in decision 3 times out of his 17 fights, and I don't think this one goes to decision either. So I really like the under in this spot. I like a violent affair. Both sides are going to target on DraftKings, but the official pick is going to be Jeongyeong Park. I think he's a great value play this week for us. Next up, we have Jin Kim versus Mandy Bohm, Mandy Bum, whatever you want to call her. This fight is not one I'm going to spend too much time on, let's put it that way. Jin Kim, $9,000 on DraftKings, and sure, she's a big favorite because everyone loves to fade Mandy Bohm, and I get it. I think Kim should win this fight, but guys, she's only ever passed 70 points on DraftKings once in her entire career. This girl is not a good DraftKings scorer, not someone you really want to be paying up for, especially around people like Kinoshita, like Lee, like Spivac. This is not someone I want to be anchoring my lineups on in Jeongyeong Kim. On the other side of things, Mandy Bohm isn't some sort of world beater either. She's actually maybe one of the most hated on fighters in the UFC for good reason, and I would never want to be backing her in her own right. But Kim isn't someone I want to be parlaying at that price tag, isn't someone I want to be putting in my lineups at $9,000. This fight is a complete fade for me. If his line was like minus 150 realm, sure, I'd take the shot on Kim because I do think she has the volume and the level of experience to go out there and dominate Mandy Bohm. But in doing so, does she score more than 70 points on DraftKings? I don't think so. really just a pass fight for me. Moving on, we go toward the road to the UFC fights, and for those who are not aware, they do these bracket type challenges for certain weight classes over there in the Singapore card or other stuff across the globe. And for this one, we have ourselves 4 title bouts. The championship bouts for all 4 of these are put on this card, starting off with the very first one here at 125, Hyun Park versus Jeongyeong Choi. Now, I've seen a lot of love and money coming in on Jeongyeong Choi. I get it. The guy is powerful. The guy is plotting. He seems to be decently durable. I don't get the love for him as much as other people. I'm on the Hyun Park side this year. I think he is a very, very strong, aggressive fighter, and I like his style here. For me, the question is, if you are backing someone as Jeongyeong Choi, are you relying on him to get a finish? Are you relying on him to put forward pressure out there with constant volume? Because every time I go out there, I see someone like Jeongyeong Choi, I see a guy who is defensively irresponsible, but doesn't have the volume to make up for it offensively. Sure, he has the power and the offensive wrestling that he could use to win fights at certain occasions, but I don't see those coming out very often. If you've got good power, good pressure, that volume should go with it. If you have decent offensive wrestling, then use it sometimes. And I don't really see it that often from someone like Choi here. To me, it's Park all day. And although I think the line may have opened a bit too wide, I think it's settling to a point where it could be playable for me. I really like what I see on the mat from Park. I like his ability to sweep, get reversals, good ground control as well, good top control, and just a good ability to get dominant positions. From those dominant positions, even on the feet, he is a very powerful guy looking for the finish at all times. He may be a bit reckless on the feet, but in doing so, he is powerful. He has shown decent durability in his own right. So for me, you have a guy in Park who's going to have the volume advantage, the grappling advantage, ability to win the ground exchanges and be powerful in the clinch, versus someone in Choi who is very defensively irresponsible. Although he does pressure forward, he doesn't do much with that. So I'm picking Hyun Park here. I think he's also a sneaky play because I'm seeing a lot of love for Choi as an underdog on DraftKings. So give me Park as a sneaky play at 8.4. I think he has finish upside of this matchup. I think he has good takedown and grappling upside of this matchup as well. And I think he gets it done for us. Next up, we have the biggest favorite of all 4 championship bouts. We have Rinya Nakamura versus Kazama, 10-2 Kazama, 6-0 Rinya Nakamura. And man, this guy is an absolute killer. He is a national champion in wrestling, and you can see that when watching his tape. He's very, very aggressive. He's got great offensive and defensive wrestling, and he's a guy who has been really building his base in MMA. He's improving both his jiu-jitsu and his striking game, and if you implement that to an incredible wrestling background, this guy could be a real problem in the UFC, and his price tag justifies that. He's the second largest favorite on the card, $9,300 on DraftKings, and rightfully so. Kazama's just in for a rough night, because whatever Kazama wants to do, he's going to be beat there by a guy in Rinya who is going to be the better offensive and defensive wrestler, have more power on the feet. I think he's an overall better technical striker. Kazama's going to want to close the distance and make it dirty with Rinya, but in doing so, you're giving Nakamura the advantages and putting yourself into a dangerous sort of trap. All this to say, I think that Nakamura is a great cash play on DraftKings. I think he gets it done pretty convincingly. He has good takedown upside, and I do think he's a decent parlay piece on the money line if you're looking to play this fight. However, with this kind of being sort of like a Dana White contender series in terms of they are still young in their careers, there are still a lot to be shown from them, I don't know how much I want to parlay here. Instead, this might be a pass fight with some ownership of Nakamura on DraftKings. Not the biggest fan of Kazama in terms of his upside because I don't see much of a path to victory for him. And in terms of the prop market, I can think Nakamura can get this done either way. Prediction for me is actually going to be giving Kazama the benefit of the doubt and taking Nakamura by decision, although a finish would not surprise me. Next up at 145, admittedly, is the fight I've done the least amount of research on. When I see on tape, Jeongyeong Lee is a justifiable favorite, but this man's just powerful. I think he's got the advantages in multiple aspects of the game. Although Zha Yi has a very good amount of experience, he hasn't really fought anyone on the same level of power and technical ability as someone like Jeongyeong Lee. I think the 91 Prospects wins this fight, and in doing so, he has an opportunity to score very, very well on DraftKings. I mean, Jeongyeong Lee is a finisher. His last 3 fights have all ended within the very first minute, and although, yeah, Zha Yi might be the best level of competition he's had out of those last 3, it's not like this guy's just can crushing. I mean, he's beat guys who are 8-3, 8-3, 7-0, 8-4, all of them really, really early on. He's fought decent level of competition, and he has disposed of them very, very quickly. Not only does he have insane power on his feet to put anybody's lights out, but a very quick armbar, a decent grappling game, and a decent get-up game if he's ever not happy with the situation he's in. I think he's going to be the more powerful guy, quicker to the punch, and the guy who's going to be more threatening, not only visually for a decision, but also just the ability to put anybody's lights out early on. I'm going to take Jeongyeong Lee to win this fight, and I think it gets it done by, let's give another first-round knockout. And finally, we have the 6-0 Jubli versus the 13-2 Saragih. And I will tell you this right now, I do not have a bet on this fight, and I'm not looking to do so. But to me, this is a very, very pivotal matchup on DraftKings. These guys are at 8K and 8.2K, and I think that's justified. This is a really, really close fight, but this is one that could make or break the slate because both of their path to victories are going to score very well. In my opinion, you have the power puncher, the better striker, the more dynamic striker in Saragih versus the guy who's more durable, better wrestling, and better ability to win minutes in someone Jubli. The only reason I'm not as big as I want to be on Jubli, because you know me, I really like my wrestlers, I like my ability to go out there, grind for 15 minutes, many takedowns, score well on DraftKings, is because he hasn't fought the best level of competition. The Indian regional scene isn't always the best, and Saragih has beaten many people from that regional scene with his same touch of death power. Saragih has a lot of that power, and I completely respect that. When I'm looking to target this fight, I'm looking to choose either the power and knockout upside of Saragih, or the takedown, late finish, but mostly takedown and wrestling upside of Jubli. And it's just a really, really close fight. I'm going to have ownership on both sides. Gun to my head, I'm picking Jubli because I do give the slight edge to wrestlers when they have that path to victory. Although a knockout for Saragih would never surprise me. They have recently opened up these new lines on DraftKings that are like first round finish only. I'm going to take a stab on that for Saragih because he does have that touch of power. But again, not betting this fight, just throwing out some random ways you can play this for fun. Because again, if we are staying up till like 3 a.m. Eastern to watch this fight, gotta have some fun with it, right? Don't know if I will or not yet. We're going to have to see, but I'm looking at ways I can target it, but I will not have an official track bet on this fight, that's for sure. Just a lot of DraftKings ownership. We're moving on now to the main card. We have the 6-1 Yusaku Kinoshita versus the 8-3 Adam Fugitt, and man, Kinoshita's coming off a highlight reel knockout in Dana White Contender Series. He put out the extremely tall Enrique, and in doing so displayed not only very, very good power, but very good ability to change up his striking, find different angles. And I mean, that knockout punch was very beautiful. But he was dominating that fight. He had good forward pressure, showed decent durability in his own right, and a decent get-up game too. I think Yusaku is a killer, and I think he has great killer instinct as well. His only loss, really, he was stomping the guy's head in. He stomped him out cold, but grabbed the fence in doing so, and got DQ'd for that. So to me, this is Kinoshita's fight to lose. He has the power to put out Fugitt like Fugitt's been put out before, and he's shown decent get-up game to really try to stuff the takedown of the 10th that we know are coming from Adam Fugitt here. So to me, this is Kinoshita really to get that finish, but if Fugitt is able to get off on those takedowns, implement his top control, he can definitely put out someone Kinoshita, catch him in something. So to me, I'm on the under big here. -125 here. I think that the most likely outcome is a Kinoshita round 1, round 2 knockout with that power, with that stance switching, good technical entry, and overall striking of Kinoshita here, but I would not be surprised if Fugitt is able to have success in the takedowns, maybe tire himself out in doing so, but also put himself in some favorable positions. Either way, I'm on violence here and hope it's a good, violent matchup to start off the main card. About time, we got a Canadian. Hey, we have the best Canadian on the planet right now, Kyle Nelson, 13-5. No, I'm just messing around. Kyle Nelson is definitely not the best Canadian on the planet, but we got one to break down. I'll do my best to do so. He is drawing the return of the Korean Superboy, Choi. And Choi must have something against Canadians, because this is 2 back-to-back Canadians, so we all know how it went the first time. Maybe he's going to try to get some redemption on us here. Maybe he doesn't like us. But Choi makes his return after 3 years serving in the Korean military there. He has actually lost 3 consecutive fights and have not won since 2016. But we all know this guy is talented. He is still young, only 31 years old. And the guy's a good fighter. There's no question about that. I mean, he threw down in one of the greatest 3-round fights of all time against Cub Swanson. One of my personal favorites to go out there and rewatch. And I think the question really is, how is he doing now? Because Choi hasn't fought in 3 years, hasn't won a fight in almost 7. The guy must be a completely different fighter than he was when he last won his fight. I think he has all the technical ability in the world to beat a guy in Kyle Nelson, but is he washed? Has he been training in the meantime? How's his chin? Nobody knows, because although Kyle Nelson isn't the best technical fighter, he's got grit, he's got a decent takedown game, a good ability to apply pressure, and he throws with heat. So is Choi the same Choi that was winning fights in 2016? The same Choi that was on a 3-fight knockout streak to start his UFC career? Or is it the guy who hasn't trained in a few years, is kind of getting back into it, who could be caught like someone in Kyle Nelson? To me, this is a violent affair. I'm on the under here as well. Back-to-back unders. I know, isn't that great? And I'm picking him to beat Kyle Nelson. I think that Kyle Nelson is a guy who overextends himself. Sure, that could go out there and help him find the knockout against a guy who could be rusty in Choi. But in doing so, he also tires out his gas tank. I don't think he implements his wrestling that well, and really just leaves himself to be hit. So give me Choi by knockout. Let's say round 2 knockout as Kyle Nelson starts to get tired. Either way, I'm on violence here. I also think Choi is another decent pivot play on DraftKings, 8.6K. The guy has power. In his win, he scored over 102 points in all 3 of them. I don't mind Choi here, and I think that the Korean Superboy gets it done. Next up, we have a heavyweight bet between Marcin Tybura and Blagoy Ivanoc. I'm not going to spend too much time on this fight because it is not pretty, I'll tell you that. Blagoy Ivanoc is one of the worst DraftKings scorers of all time. Last fight in his win, he put up 64 points. Before that, he put up 59 points in a win. The guy is super, super durable. There's no killing the man. That's pretty much all he's got going for him, though. He doesn't have the best output, doesn't have the best power, doesn't have the best takedown or top control. But it's so hard to get him out of there that it just leaves for a dull fight. I mean, the fight's minus 220 to go the distance in a heavyweight fight. You never see that before. It's an interesting dynamic. I think Marcin Tybura has more upside in the division, is the more talented fighter, but he doesn't have that same durability that Ivanoc has. He doesn't have that same cardio that Ivanoc has, and I don't think he can go out there and take down control Ivanoc for 3 rounds to win something comfortably. I'm almost completely fading this fight, although it is a heavyweight fight, which is weird to say, because in Tybura's last fight, he only put up 59 points in a win anyways. So to me, it is a ugly, and uglier heavyweight fight, one of the ugliest ones we've seen, and I'm going to sit back and let them have it out. I think, gun to my head, I'm going to take the youth of Marcin Tybura to go out there, maybe land a few takedowns, win a very, very close split decision, but not one I want any financial investment in. Next up, co-main event, Un Jung, Devin Clark. I mean, you could classify it as wrestler versus striker here, and I just don't trust Devin Clark at all. I don't think anybody should. I think Un Jung's going to have the ability to piece up Devin Clark wherever the fight goes and really win this fight pretty convincingly, but Devin Clark sometimes has this like inner demon that if he's able to surmount it, he has a good base, he has a good amount of physicality, but he's not all there. He doesn't always make the best decisions. Complete pass for me again, unfortunately. He looked awful against Mirzakhanov his last time out, and Un Jung is going to be able to piece him up if Clark doesn't shoot any takedowns. So give me Un Jung to win this fight by striking. I don't want much of a financial investment on it either, though. Kind of just going to sit back and try to see where their heads are at. Is Devin Clark making improvements? Is Un Jung able to capitalize off the mistakes that Clark is going to make? Really just gather information on this fight. Gonna pick Un Jung though. Not the best one to target on DraftKings though. And finally, the main event, the 26-10 Derek Lewis, 15-3 Sergey Spivac. That's right, Black Beast main event. And breaking this down one more time, my opinion doesn't really change. Derek Lewis is a guy I will never bet against because he has that tough a Dutch power, and Sergey Spivac has been finished before. There's no question he can be finished. It's just stylistically, this is Spivac's fight all day. Spivac is the much better fighter with a great path to victory. It's just, can you ever count out Derek Lewis? Probably. I mean, in this stage of his career, probably can count him out, but he always has that puncher's chance. He's always dangerous. This is a fight I really just want a ton of ownership on DraftKings because of their both high scoring opportunities and pathways to win, but not one I want too much of a financial investment on from a betting perspective. I'm not one to go out there and tell you should be max betting Derek Lewis because he has the ability to finish fights. I'm just saying I'd be careful betting Spivac because Lewis is always one who can land that knockout punch at all times. Just ask Curtis Blades. I hope for a fun fight. Maybe I'm cheering for Derek Lewis because it's always fun to see the Black Beast succeed, but I don't have much faith in him at this point in his career. I will have some ownership on him for GPP perspectives, but the pick's going to be Sergey Spivac. I'm going to stay ground and pound by Derek Lewis quitting in round 2. But we'll have ownership on both sides. But that is going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Quickly, I'm just going to go through my quick picks. We're picking Taizutsu Taira by domination. We're taking Jeongyeong Park. We're taking Jeong Kim, unfortunately. Hyun Park. We're taking Rinya Nakamura. We're going to take Jeongyeong Lee. We're going to take Anshul Jubli, but that's a really, really close fight. I'm okay with either side. Yusaku Kinoshita, Duho Choi, Marcin Tybura, Un Jung, and we're going to go Sergey Spivac. Again, lots of favorites here. Not many underdogs I'm really putting my foot down on and taking my stance on. So on DraftKings, a very, very dangerous card. In terms of getting different on DraftKings in the mid-range, I like Duo Choi, I like Jeongyeong Park, I like Hyun Jung Park. All three of those from 8.4, 8.5, 8.6. Great ways to get different. My highest owned fights are the Jubli and Saragih fight, as well as the Lewis Spivac fight and the Kinoshita Fugitt fight. But again, after saying all these names that I cannot properly pronounce, I hope you guys have still been able to understand what I'm saying out there. Hopefully my research has gone to good use. As always, if you have any questions, please check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. Send me a DM anytime. I'm always happy to chat there. But if you made it this far, please take the time to hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. I'm looking forward to there being fights again, and we're getting some new prospects here, so I'm excited to see how we can make some money off of them. Check out my full card of bets. I'll be posting them Friday afternoon, so again, make sure you're checking out my Twitter there. And for content, I'll be on the Pub Sport Radio channel twice this week, actually. I'll be doing the DFS show at 7 p.m. Wednesday night, as well as the DieHardMMA podcast with Clint Monday night at 6:30 p.m. I will link that in the description down below. But again, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you guys get some insight into how I'm targeting this slate from both a betting and a DraftKings perspective. And guys, enjoy the card. Let's make some money, guys.